Hey Matt, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, Nick. How are you?
Fantastic. How was the ready for the weekend?
It's Friday, so I'm always geared up for the weekend. My big dynamic this weekend is going to be a lot of couch time, a lot of college basketball, both men's and women's Final Four. So it's a big
Ooh,
weekend in college basketball here in the states.
yeah. And for the people in New Jersey, be safe. We just heard that there was a small
I
earthquake. I hope
Very
everyone is
timely.
fine. Very timely.
4.9. I think I just read, and
Yeah.
I swear to you, I'm about 40 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Not too close to that central point, but I felt it. I thought it
Uh,
was a truck driving through my neighborhood. I really did.
we're,
I
we're
really
laughing
did.
about it, but I hope we can all laugh and there was no
Oh, I know.
casualty or anything.
Oh God, of course,
All
of
right, let's
course.
move on.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Nico with eStreamly, the company that can get you live streaming, video commerce on your website, social media, SMS, email, wherever you are. People can make your video. We can make your video shoppable. I am with Matt from E6 Marketing, the company that gets you on QVC and HSN. So pleased to have you today, Matt. We have a jam-packed episode. A lot of exciting news in the video commerce space, in the video space in general, social media. Why don't you take on and tell us what the show is about?
Yes, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you very much for tuning into the Vcommerce podcast. This is a live chat podcast that we do each week on Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We discuss the big topics related to video commerce on the day. So, video commerce is a storytelling platform that was created over 50 years ago with TV infomercials, DRTV, evolved into HSN and QVC, and now it's moved into engaged direct response commerce through your television, computer, tablet, and phones. At best, hopefully, this conversation is entertaining and you pick up a few nuggets of information. And we're ready to go. So, thank you very much for tuning in. As Nicholas said, a lot to talk about this week in I guess the tech world and the video commerce world. But the first story that we saw that kind of grabbed our attention was about Flip.
Yeah. So Flip is this. For the one that don't know, Flip is this mobile app that you can have on your phone that is all about shoppable video, live stream shopping. As in fact, I think if I recall properly, and please don't quote me on that, I haven't do my due diligence to look at that, but I remember back in the day when I first engaged with Flip, having seen this where you could receive a box of products, mostly under fashion or a lipstick or beauty, and then you can live stream with your friend to kind of open the box and tell your friend what product you have in there. So it's really this community driven live shopping experience that anyone can do, and this platform has been really fast growing. They were able to acquire some really good talent from TikTok Shop, but they also just the announcement this week that they made, they just raised a Series C. So pretty big deal. It's $155 million fundraising, so it's a good investment. And the what's interesting about this investment is that 50%, about 50 million, is coming from a software company called AppLovin. And AppLovin is known for their tech, and their tech is pretty well known to help increase AOV, so average order value. One of the things that was caught my attention with this whole deal is the fact that I got a chance to meet someone from Flip a couple days ago that was telling me this is a high risk, high reward type deal. One of the problems that Flip is having is that they're high velocity, small transaction. And as you know, small, because they take a percentage of sales, the small transaction, when you have a product and you sell a lot of it, you in the payment world, you have to pay a flat fee plus a percentage of your sales. And so it can really eat quickly on your profitability when you're making just a small percentage out of that transaction. So think of it like if you sell a $10 item and out of that you're making 10%, it's like $1. But then you also have to pay a 30 cents, 20 cents flat fee with that transaction for handling that transaction. So now you're actually your profit on this after the cost of just the operation of the transaction might be just ending up being 70 cents, and now you have to pay for the video and all that stuff going with that. So it's a pretty expensive thing. And so They hope, my understanding is that with that deal with AppLovin, they will be able to bring that AOV up so they can actually drive more sales and more reward for the merchant, more reward for them. And this app can continue to thrive as they have been thriving. Very interesting story.
I think so too. And what caught my attention, and I wasn't too savvy with Flip, but after I saw your story on your newsletter, I did some deep diving into their whole website and things. And it seems like if their challenge is median price point being too low, QVC and HSN have kind of figured this out long ago. It's that world, home shopping is kind of the metric is dollars per minute. So every product needs to earn a certain dollar per minute to be deemed successful. Because of that, QVC and HSN and other websites and other e-commerce sites build up their price point by putting value kits together. So it could be a 3-piece kit or a whole configuration, wash your face, but if we're talking about beauty, or 3 lipsticks or whatever you want to do, the median price goes up because you sell 3 rather than 1. So Flip is doing the one box, one product kind of dynamic, and their price points are so low, as you explained, they can't generate enough revenue through all the transaction fees. If they just raise their median price, which seems like an easy thing to do, but I know it's not, it would be a natural bump in their each order acquisition dynamic.
Yeah, the AOV, right? So
Right.
love the idea of like QVC had this problem before, and they thought about bundling as a way to kind of solve for that. The what's old is new, I guess.
Yeah.
Like
Everything comes back. Exactly.
come back to looking at the story and how are people addressing those problems back in the day. Very interesting insight. I love that story. So the other story that caught our attention is the Facebook story. Facebook launching a player. Why don't you go and tell us more about that?
Yeah, talk about what's old is new, right? So Facebook wants to compete with TikTok and Amazon in grabbing their grabbing their viewers by changing the dynamic of how the content is viewed. So they're changing to a vertical first video player. So it fills up the whole screen, like if on your telephone or on your phone or on your laptop or tablet. And you could, from a commerce perspective, if you're shopping through Facebook Live, you have a better customer experience. So I like that dynamic. Obviously, TikTok Shop has figured something out. YouTube is the dominant player in this kind of vertical space. It will change a lot for Facebook, change the number of views, maybe change the time that people spend more on it. And then they'll also control the next video that you watch. So I thought about that when I read that dynamic. And I will say, and I've said this on the show before, I really stay off of TikTok completely during the day and even into the night. But at the end of the night, as my evening's wrapping up, which is the opposite of getting a good night's sleep, I look at TikTok a little bit before I
go.
And I'm a function of how they lead me down a path of video. So I don't even search. I just flip. And if I'm, then I watch, it's often music that I'm looking at, or comedies or something that entertains me. And I just go by their algorithm. I've taught them what I like, and I just follow their path. So Facebook doing the same thing will change my habits on looking through Facebook videos, just as it's done for TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah, so obviously optimizing the feed. I felt like, so for people saying, okay, what's the story of the player? If you go back to Facebook or Instagram, just look at the top nudge of the video. The video used to be a square within that, and you had like a big black box around it. This is no longer happening. The video is actually real full screen this time. So that's their number one innovation per se. Again, what's old is new. That's what it's been doing as a lot of player for a long time now. But now what you're saying is also that auto display on the next one, trying to understand who you are and making an algo to affect. I mean, let's be honest. If TikTok gets banned, right, who is going to win? It's Facebook. And if Facebook has a similar way of grabbing attention to people, they can start really be competing significantly on the space. So I think it's really interesting, and it's a smart move. I mean, it's everyone at the end, every social media will be looking the same, but that's competition.
Yeah, and Facebook's viewership is not me. I'm sorry, Facebook's viewership is me and you, and TikTok is not me and you, and we both obviously interact with both. So if
Yeah.
Facebook is able to knock down their median age by you changing their video format, it's obviously a smart thing to do. And I'm curious on how it'll change the dynamics with the vendors and the brands that sell through Facebook Live, because now Facebook will basically push that viewer to the next video. So how's it change with the ad space, ad revenue, literally the TikTok shop or the Facebook Live selling features? how's it interact with their consumer or their vendor? All that is yet to be seen.
I mean, we have to, I mean, like, if we can make one more comment on this is, if you think about Facebook, Instagram, and you compare it to TikTok, right? The big difference between those two companies is one is a pay to play with Facebook, right? You pay to be discovered as a brand, and with TikTok, it's not a pay to play. It's more like you produce content, and that content is going to be automatically populating the people that are technically interested with this type of content. So the more content you make exciting, the more people will engage, and that's how you get discoverability. At the end of the day, it's a very different type of way discoverability happen on those platforms. It's interesting to think that Facebook and Instagram, which used to be a pay to play, are changing that. So there will be, I think it will be conflict because that's how they make money too. So I'm super curious to see how it's going to unfold and work out.
I always go back to how Amazon got started. They got started by taking out bookstores in the U.S. by offering books at a loss, and they offer books at such a great price. They basically took out the small book owner or small book merchant, and then they started charging regular prices for the books on Amazon. So I think about that when TikTok is still free, but Facebook is not. It's everything's going to evolve. Things evolve. So once they capture their consumer or capture their audience, they're going to merchandise it and market it and sell through, right?
Speaking of Amazon, I'd like to jump on the third story of the week. It's really this big shift in retail and innovation at Amazon. So first of all, the big news of the week was the fact that the company started to expanding on their Amazon. They're expanding on their PAM scanning. So I don't know if you try that, Matt, but if you go to certain Whole Food, you can actually at the checkout, there's like a little machine. You can actually scan your palm, and that palm will become your biometric device. That the biometric, it will be tied to your account, and now with that biometric, they can issue payment easier and so facilitate your checkout. What they just did is that they released an app called the Amazon One app that you can download on the App Store and everything, where you can actually do the scanning directly from the phone. Their goal is to expand that biometric across more and more facilities. They are doing partnership with trade shows and partnership with event concert place and everything. So it's really about this notion of like, okay, that I think it's interesting because I think there is a big concern from a lot of people about facial recognition. And so Palm, my sons, maybe, I don't know if that's the case. That's what they went. Why would they went with Palm? But like we know that facial recognition is people are freaking out about this, and so a lot of people are not actually scanning. My wife, for instance, she refused to actually use facial recognition to open her phone. So I don't know if she will be more comfortable with having her Palm for that, but I think it's fascinating to see that. The other story that is interesting that they just did is that they actually are going away from the just walk out store concept. And I don't remember if you remember that it was like a big news when they launched it, but it's the idea of like, okay, they have camera posted everywhere, and now you can put it into the cart, go through the checkout, don't have to pay everything. All that is recognized. They are going away from that technology and going back to the scanner. So now you get your scanner, you scan your food, and at the end you go to the checkout to make it easy. I found it interesting. I'm assuming what they probably found out is one, or either technology is too expensive or it's not accurate enough and they have tons of loss. So that's an interesting. as a result of that, unfortunately, Amazon has to is laying off a bunch of hundreds of employees that were running the retail technology on AWS. So I don't know if it's direct consequences or if it's also because AWS is actually having slower growth than expected. But there's certainly some shift around that, and I think it's interesting, right? So Amazon going into that iteration phase of like, okay, this technology, the PAM technology, is working. Let's expand it all across the board. Checkout is not. Let's reduce it down, turn it down. It's fascinating to see those big brands doing so big move like that.
Yeah, they call it the just walk out technology. So I was never a fan of it. I just didn't get involved in it. I never shopped in those stores. But to your wife's point, and to many people's points, like Big Brother is watching, so she doesn't like that facial recognition. She doesn't like getting scanned when she walks out the store because it's personal. It's a personal invasion in some ways. The worst part of the whole thing is a few hundred roles are being eliminated because of the decisions they're making. So, kind of applaud them for taking a shot and trying to change the dynamic of how shoppers engage with brick and mortar. Unfortunately, a lot of people are losing, losing their jobs from it because Amazon's moving on past it.
Yeah.
The self-scanning thing, the whole thing is so interesting. Even when I have a few things at a grocery store, I go to the guy that's standing there. There's 7 checkout lines and there's only one light on because he's the only guy, and I'll go to him rather than checkout because these are jobs and things, and I think about that kind of stuff when I'm in the grocery store. There's room for advancement in technology, and then there's sometimes,
I do feel though that I think younger generation will go more digital. I personally, even if I see a person on checkout, I would prefer to go to the self checkout. So I do think it's very generational and how people are behaving. Like especially with certain grocery store where like they tell you it's a pleasure to shop there, but then they start talking to you and they start to asking you the story that it's kind of, I won't say it's fake, but it's kind of fake. So just I want to get in, get out, and so I don't know. Maybe it's maybe we are getting more and more isolated as a society, and we just don't want to talk to people, and maybe that's the problem.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, you talked about you kind of referenced security. What was the story? Oh, the Shopify plugins leaked data from nearly 2,000 stores. It was reported this week. 7.6 million orders were potentially affected by this breach. Sarah's Shopify plugins, I think I'm saying that right, SAARA, Sarah's Shopify plugins, breach remained open for 8 months.
Yeah, before they found out, right?
Before they found out. Customers' names, addresses, phone numbers, partial payment information, like this is a major thing.
Yeah. You know what's amazing in this whole story, to be frank with you, is apparently someone had a database open. So probably like, it was a small mistake. It was probably a very small mistake. And they had inside a note from the guy who was able to get that saying, please send me, at the time I think it was a 0.1 Bitcoin, or make that whole database public. 0.1 Bitcoin is $600. Right, so it's not like they were looking for a crazy amount of money or anything, right? It's probably like a guy who found this and say, oh, wow, this is interesting. But yet still, for 7 months, this thing was open. Anyone could have found it. Anyone could have taken the data. So yes, you have this malicious guy who, put it there, but maybe there are other guys who didn't say anything and actually took advantage of that. They shut down right away and closed that database. The company is saying that there was no confidential information and everything, but people that had access to that data or view the data, they say, yes, actually pretty much everything was in there. So very interesting. It is scary because as a technology provider, the first thing I say is like, I send that to the team and say, hey guys, do we have any of those problems? Are we sure that everything is closed up and everything? Like, can we double clean and everything? It's a small thing. But I think at the end of the day, it's this is the problem with technology. The data is where it sits, and so it's getting harder and harder for for us as an individual to know where your data is and is it really safe. And on the same time, we kind of like to have our life easier with the Palm or with some of those tools that makes the flow of information much easier. And so our life is not like trying to type stuff all the time to tell who we are and how to shop and where to get those things. So
Nicholas, let me ask you a question. At your home, do you receive bills and pay bills electronically, or do you wait for the bill to come in through the mail? How
so
do
I
you
do.
handle that kind of
I I will say that I think there's one bill that they still have paper. It's because they don't offer the paperless payment, but everything is digital. I don't
you don't
think
mess,
about.
mess with any kind of mail, right? So there's a
No.
thing called washing that is happening across the country, and it's not new. Where crooks will either wash your mail, like open your mailbox and wash your mail, not even take it, but scan it in some way to get your ID or your information through that credit card company or through that billing, or they go to the mailbox and throw a stick into the mailbox at the mail post office, pull out a bunch of mail, and then wash it and then put it back and have all this information on regular people and then steal their identities and all kinds of craziness happens. So my house, we're like 3/4 of the way 100%, 3/4 of the way digitized. So we still get
Oh,
occasional bills in the mail that we pay, but I am more and more conscious of that kind of thing. All of that being said, when all these digital platforms are being hacked, it just makes me uneasy on the whole dynamic. Like,
yeah.
are we better through digital? We're better through old school mail. What's the best way to handle this? And unfortunately, I have this horrible feeling like the bad guys are smarter than the good guys, and it's harder to stay ahead of these criminals on the digital side, no matter how airtight your security is in the digital space. It makes it hard. So now we're talking on a Vcommerce podcast. Everything's electronic retailing. It's electronic, working through products getting shipped to you. There's no brick and mortar dynamic in our world. Obviously, the payment is through digital. What's the best thing to do? So in
Yeah.
my mind, it just deters any kind of fence sitter with shopping through the digital space because they're worried about their own personal identification and security.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we end up with the show, I just want to do a special shout out to Dan Spaziani, who is saying hi to us. So, hi Dan, hope you're doing great. Thank you for being here and watching us and sharing your insight. My shout out of the week I wanted to do is well, it's on the Extreme side. We released a bunch of new features this week. Some of them I'm super thrilled. I'm so excited about what the team has been doing. One is the ability to stream your content directly to TikTok. You have to be a TikTok creator, but we now have the ability from one device to push it to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok now. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is a new player that we launched. It's a small player that follows you across your website. I like this player particularly because it's really small and smooth, and that's a player that I've been wanting to have, especially for the live stream trivia, which I think is a perfect player for that. And then the last thing I will say is a new feel and look. So the team has been working to make the display of the product and much clearer, and so the product info are coming much nicer on the product and the digital experience there. I like it. So that was my shout out. So special shout out to the team to make that effort and the work, because I think it's fantastic and I love the tech that they're building. So that was
Yeah,
for me. What, do you have any shout out, Matt?
yeah, your website looks amazing, Nicholas.
Well, thank you.
The only thing I will say, we're still in early April, and here on the East Coast where I live, the weather has been just horrible over the last week or so. It's a big basketball weekend in our house and across the country. Women's and men's Final Four college basketball is tonight and tomorrow night, and I'll be tuned in for all four games. The women's game is amazing. It's getting all the press right now. Caitlin Clark is the biggest name in probably in all of sport right now in the U.S. She's a college basketball player, plays for Iowa. She's amazing. So I'll be tuned in to college basketball, both women's and men's, all weekend. Nicholas, I hope you tune in at least to check out what the buzz is about.
I have to, right? Because I know, like, then you ask me questions. I'm like, I
Exactly.
have no idea, man. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. We are here every Friday on X, on YouTube, on Facebook and LinkedIn. We also are posting the audio episode directly on the Live E-commerce podcast. You can chat with us by sending us an email directly, responding to our comments. We would love to know more about you. And thanks everyone. We will look again to see you next Friday. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Bye.